everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 2 of Skip and Loafer, and I'm so excited. I really am enjoying this series. We're only one episode in, but I like this dynamic of Mitsumi, the Leslie Knope energy, AAA type girl who thinks nothing can go awry, everything has to be perfect, and she just needs to, loosen up and go with the flow and realize you don't have to have your life planned out piece by piece for the next 50 years. And then you have Sousuke, who is the polar opposite, who seems like he has no ambition, he has no, thoughts about the future past high school. He's very much got some emotional baggage hiding beneath this golden retriever-esque congenial persona he's putting on, and he needs to learn to have, ambition and purpose. And so they're gonna complete each other, but in typical romance comedy fashion, there is likely going to be miscommunication tropes, there may be jealousy, there may be, shenanigans going on, so it's just oh my god. So I'm really excited to dive into that with these characters and see what we get. Last episode was hilarious and set up just enough mystery to get you invested in seeing where it goes. So I'm really excited about that. I hope you all are too. But before we start this episode, I want to give a very quick shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. I am super appreciative of all of the support I get on YouTube through subscribers as well as through Patreon, whether it's the $1 tier, $5 tier, or especially the philanthropy tier. You guys help me pay for the services that I use to make these reactions happen. So I really appreciate that. So I want to give a special shout out over to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Anna, to Be Happy, as well as Dana, Destiny Marie, Danger Zone, to Eric, to Lyndon, to Loisiji, to Kiri, as well as Matthew Palfinier, Nameless Monster, Trails, Sunspots, Shimoyama, as well as Murphew and Translucent Men. Thank you all so much for all of your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, I'm very curious what's gonna happen, because day one for Mitsumi was not good. She had a very bad day. She threw up on a teacher. She barely made it to her opening ceremonies on time. She got lost. But on the other hand, she met Sousuke, who seems here's the thing I like about it. Sousuke on the surface seems like such a catch, right? He seems like the perfect guy. He's handsome, he's nice, he seems relatively smart, but there's always a catch, right? Everybody has flaws, and his flaw seems to be the emotional baggage he's carrying that we don't know about, and the fact that he doesn't really have any ambition. He's just and it's ambition is attractive, right? That's how I think. I'm if I was going to be with someone, they have to have they don't have to be ambitious to the point where they're, gunning to be CEO of a company, but they have to have ambition to have a job and provide and, financially support themselves and their partner. So there has to be some security there. And Loafer Sousuke seems he's kind of lacking in that area. So maybe he just hasn't found his way, or he doesn't have any ambition, or there's something else we don't know about. So I'm curious to know what the reason behind that is. We may not find out this season because it's only 12 episodes and the manga is ongoing, but I'm hoping we find out along the way a little bit more about him. So that'll be good. But yeah, I'm super excited. So I hope you all are too, but we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into Skip and Loafer episode 2. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this. Yamada Kento, a ladies' man. How bold! What a ballsy introduction. She's like, get out. Get off the stage. To battle! Her aunt is also incredibly tall. She's also really tall. Mitsumi's a high schooler. She shouldn't be, going through that much of a growth spurt at this point. Oh. Oh. Wait, is that a dude? Is her aunt trans? What? Wait, what? We're going to go back to that scene in the discussion. Why the government? Oh my god! Oh my god! Light Yagami's in the back, riding, and goes, oh, hey. What a different story that would have been. I don't have one, yeah. No! Take that as a flirt! Take that as a compliment! Go with that! He is flirting! Go with that! Yes! I'm glad you made that relation! Yes! He's literally like her dog! What a coinkydink! Ah! And he's like, oh, what are you looking back here for? Yes! Instantly. Oh. Yes! Make them class officers! Yay! And of course all the girls are like, yes, please, instantly. Yes! Of course they are! Ah, and there's the blonde, the mysterious blonde. Is she Regina George or not? Ah! Ooh. She's so pretty. Oh! Because she's afraid that maybe Sousuke will fall for her, or... Oh, don't get caught up in all that. And there's his friend beside him. Oh. I can see what she's trying to do. She doesn't want... Yeah, she doesn't want her to get hurt. Yeah. And Mitsumi's like, well... But, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I wish she hadn't have said that. Yeah, it's like, let her figure it out on her own. Voice isn't bad. Yeah. Ah! The tambourine. Yes. Love it. Oh, girl, I'd be with you. I don't want to do karaoke. I can't sing. No. Nah. Ooh. Yeah, and she has such a pretty name. It's like, she's so pretty. Oh! Holy shit, I didn't think that either. Girl! Okay, blonde. All right. Interesting. Oh. Oh. I didn't think about that. Wow. I like the blonde a lot more for that. Fumi would go up there and like shank a bitch, I think. Oh, I thought she was gonna cry. Knee-high to a grasshopper. Aww. Are you psychic? Oh. Oh. So like first impressions and getting to know people. Oh. Love, love, yeah. Get in there, girl. Get in there, girl. I would have that. Oh, I like the blonde a lot now, yes. And they like her as they liked as a kid. Aw. Yeah. Hope you feel bad for trying to do that. I could murder a beef bowl. That's great. Yeah, the blonde turned out to be a lot different than I expected. I'm glad about that. Oh, yeah, I could tell. She's so pretty, like ridiculous. Yeah, she seems like a loner. Good for her. Oh. Oh. Just called her out. That was you just got turned down hard. Yeah, you just got turned down hard. Oh. Oh no. Oh, girl. Girl. Head pats for days. Do it. Mitsumi-chan, yes. Oh. Kinomoto, oh. You're setting a trend, Mitsumi. Yes, very cute. She doesn't know the significance of the panda, but oh my god. So much recruitment. The occult club! Go join Mob Psycho! Go do it! Oh my god, Scholar Bowl, math and science. The future of our environment. I mean, of course. Do they have like a government club? Yeah, they're like, lucky me, huh? Look, that's my dog's name. We're not gonna do that. Uh-huh. That's what you get for being a skank. Mitsumi's like, what do I do? What club do I join? Who has the heels with the band-aid? Oh no! What? And defending her. What? Who be this? Oh, hi! No, he just picked her because she's the prettiest. Ah! I love their fashion. Everything about it. Cultured! Oh my god, what is this? Just rising up through the ranks, Mitsumi. She's like, oh, thank you. I will take these roses. Oh my god. Love them. Oh. He's like, love them already. A hurricane, yes. Hurricane Bianca, for sure. To sin to be so gifted. Oh, I understand. Like, picking a club would be really hard. Oh, that's why. Okay, I thought that that was a statement that they were making. I mean, they pull it off well. They pull it off real well. Uh-huh. Ah. Oh. Yeah, he's a little bit off today. What's up with that? Oh, they were never that important anyway. Yeah, he is a little sad sometimes. A mystery, yes, very much so. Interesting. Yeah, he was off today. Oh. Oh, he doesn't want them to hear. Oh. Oh. Oh, interesting. Interesting. The student council, there we go. What is this device? This rolly thing feels good. Oh, I liked this episode even more than the last episode. I loved this episode. This episode was great. Building on the mystery of Sousuke, our mysterious golden retriever, who is just like, yes, who is getting a little bit protective of Mitsumi, which I like. We'll talk about the whole dynamic and the relationships and everything. Mitsumi is just like, okay. But I love Mitsumi. I love her to pieces. I love what this series is doing with representation. That it comes very much out in this episode, and I love how normalized it is. And it took me a second. I was like, oh wait, what? And then I just love the dynamics that are developing between all of the characters, and the idea in this episode that first impressions are not typically accurate. And that a lot of times how we first encounter people, if you just keep getting to know them, you will probably find a side of them that's different than what you originally perceived, and you may end up becoming really good friends with them. And I think that that's going to speak to this season as a whole, and I'm really excited about that. So let's dive in and talk about this. So I'm glad that her opening introduction of herself went a lot better than I thought, right? Because you know the trope in anime when they're first introducing themselves, it either is going to go really well and everybody's going to be like, oh my god, love you, or it's going to go horrifically bad and everyone's going to think that she's this big loser, which it's not. She's just really awkward. But I totally relate to Mitsumi because, you know, if you grow up in a small town, you know 10 people, it's like you only interact with this very specific group, and so you all kind of easily and quickly get to know each other's idiosyncrasies, all of their personalities, their quirks. And so when you go somewhere that's a lot bigger and there are people that you've not grown up with, that you've not had all this time to get to know, suddenly it's a lot different and it's harder, and you're like, okay, I don't know these people, how do I interact with them, what do I say? And you don't want to, nobody wants to make a bad first impression, but oftentimes when you first meet people, you don't click, you don't get to know them. I've had coworkers that the first month I worked with them, I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna like them at all. And then you slowly get to know them over time and you're like, oh, they're not so bad, they're not what I thought they were, right? So definitely, I love how some of my earlier perceptions are being kind of changed, especially with the blonde. We'll get to know her, but let's dive into this episode. Oh my God, the one boy who starts it, he's like, I'll be faithful once I have a girlfriend, but I'm gonna be a player till then, so hit me up. I'm like, what a ballsy dude. Like, he's like, has no qualms. He's wearing a hoodie under his blazer. He doesn't care. He's just like, I'm so ballsy about all this. It's great. I love the teacher. She's like, yep, get out of here, go. The teacher cracks me up because I can relate, where she's like, okay, next. Thank you, next. Like, she's just got Ariana Grande playing in her head the whole time. So then we have Mitsumi, and we cut to her, like, going up there, and then her on the train. We'll get past this OP here. And she's on the train with her aunt and saying, I'm going to keep things casual. And they're like, just smile, okay? Just smile. It didn't hit me in the last episode how much taller her aunt was. And I know some friends of mine that are really tall for women. They're, I have one of my really close friends from high school is nearly 6 foot tall, and she's a woman. Never crossed my mind. There are tall women. It's just a thing. So the idea that the aunt is trans never crossed my mind. Also because it's her father's sister. So I'm like, the father, no offense to Mitsumi, is not that attractive. And then you have the aunt who's very attractive. And I just thought, oh, well, it's the father's sister, which it is. But I was like, the idea that they are a trans woman never crossed my mind until this train scene. And she's like, nobody's going to ask you to tell a joke. It's going to be okay. And she's like, really? And she's like, oh, like this. And then you see, I like how the color grading and everything gets dark and shadowy for a second. And everybody kind of looks over to the aunt. And you see the aunt with the wrist up on the rail. The nails, the jewelry. But then you see the Adam's apple there, the way the neck is. And how people kind of look over. And they're like, is that a dude? But then I like that Mitsumi, that one moment is so powerful, because you can see in that moment that now the aunt, she gets insecure for a moment, because she's on the train and she's like, oh, everybody's staring at me and think I'm a guy, and that's not who I am. And then Mitsumi grabbing her aunt's hand and saying like, yeah, it's gonna be okay, I'm gonna be fine. Oh my God, I love that. And it's such a harsh reminder, sadly, because this whole time, last episode, Mitsumi is so accepting of her aunt and how she is, that it's like you don't even think about any of that until people on the outside point out that insecurity that Now has. And it's so sad, because Now is just being themselves. She's just living her best life, and Mitsumi is so accepting of her aunt. And it's sad that Now has this moment of insecurity as she's trying to tell her niece to not be insecure. So, I love that representation. I like that it's just normalized, right? It's so interesting. Like, after that scene, in that moment, what I really like about it is that it reminded me a lot of Ouran High School Host Club. And in Ouran High School Host Club, I like how representation has evolved and progressed over time. Because when you think of Ouran High School Host Club, if you've not seen that series, the main character, Haruhi, her father cross-dresses after the death of her mom. And that's revealed very early on in the series, so it's not really a spoiler. But the cross-dressing, it's not, I don't know if I would call it trans representation, because the dad isn't necessarily trans feminine. They're just dressing in drag. They're exploring their femininity. They're trying to express that, but I don't know if I would necessarily call it trans in that sense. And it's more played up. It's played up as a part of the father and their character, but it's at times played as a joke, right? It's played for comedy, and it's kind of indicative of how times have changed, because you have that late 90s, early 2000s, like, how do we demonstrate possible trans representation, but we're not calling it that, and it's not quite that, because society's not really ready to have that portrayed in the media in a certain light, even though it should be. And so it's so refreshing to see, compared to that point in time. Now we have Now, who is Mitsumi's aunt, being this very positive, very normalized trans woman representation, but still making it human, in that, just like Mitsumi now has insecurities even as an adult because of them being themselves. And they're trying to tell Mitsumi, she's saying, just be yourself. Like, that's all you have to do. And that's the best thing you can do, is just be who you are, live your truth. And that's so important. And I think that scene is so powerful, like, early on. And it caught me completely off guard, because Mitsumi is so normal around her aunt, and just saying, like, hey, you're just my aunt, it's cool, that you don't think, like, it's sort of an idea of, we're born being accepting. We are born naturally being accepting of others and loving people for who they are. That prejudice is a societal thing that's ingrained to us. We are taught that injustice. We aren't born with that injustice, right, in our systems. And so in that moment, I was like, oh, wait. And it's like, this is the crowd around had to point it out before I even noticed. So I was like, oh, but it doesn't matter, because it's her aunt, and she's amazing, and she's so supportive of Mitsumi, and I love this scene so much. And I have friends that are trans, and so I can only imagine, I wish they could see this and get their perspective on it, because I really like that scene a lot. And then Mitsumi's like, is this better? But yeah, Now is so beautiful, and honestly, compared to their brother, live your truth. But I love Now. I love Now as the supportive aunt, just giving Mitsumi all the great advice. I love it. It's so beautiful. I love it so much. Aw. So then Mitsumi is inspired, and she's like, thank you for the advice, Now-chan. I love it. And then she gets up there and is like, my birthday's March 3rd. So she's a Pisces, to make note. I thought for a second she'd be an Aries, but no. And she's a Pisces. And she's like, I'm from Ishikawa. And we find out Ishikawa is at the very tip top of Japan. And she's like, I'm staying with a relative. And I want to be a government official, which is why I applied to Tokyo school. And they're like, why government? And I like that Mitsumi's like, it's a long story. Do I tell them my life objectives here in the middle of class? Like, that's weird. And I like that Now it's like, don't worry. Nobody's going to ask you to tell a joke. It's perfectly fine. And so then she's like, well, I'm a woman who goes above and beyond. She's like, because I was born to lead, obviously. I love she says that so serious. She's like, obviously, I was born to be a leader. And I'm just like imagining Light Yagami in the background from Death Note being like, what? I love it. She's so sure of herself, but it comes across like she's a dictator. And everybody in the class is like, oh, okay. It's not the worst scenario, right? It's not the worst. And she's like, oh my God. So then we have Sousuke stands up. He's like, I'm Shima Sousuke, and I was born and raised in Tokyo. So I'm curious now, because we find a little bit out about his backstory, a smidgen, right? And the fact that he has to go to the school in Tokyo, I'm curious if he was forced to go to this school in Tokyo by his parents. If that was the case, like, what was the reasoning behind it? Also, it makes much more sense now why in the last episode his friends are so protective of him. Because, yeah, if you were a childhood TV star as a kid, or if your family are TV stars, then it would make sense why, you grow up with your really close friends and they know you for who you are, past that glossy first impression, past that veneer, they know who he is. So there's this idea that they want to be protective of him and keep him safe, but he's not with them anymore. And so he's kind of connected to Mitsumi, who doesn't really know about who he is, nor does she care what his backstory might be. So I think that's really interesting to note. I really like that. And he's like, I really like physical activities, and I don't have a dream yet, but I wouldn't mind working for Iwakura-san. I'm like, girl, he's lays it on thick. And we'll talk about Igashira. We'll talk about her. the redhead. We'll talk about her and all this. But he's like, I don't think he's just, saying it to Mitsumi just because he's being friendly. No, he likes Mitsumi. Now, here's the thing. I know this is supposed to be a romance. I honestly there's a part of me that is fine if Sousuke and Mitsumi are just friends. There's a part of me that really likes their dynamic, likes their dynamic and relationship together just on a platonic friend level. But then the other part of me instantly gets jealous for Mitsumi's behalf if any other girls try to get near Sousuke. And I'm like, get away! Mitsumi's here! So I instantly get jealous for Mitsumi on her behalf of anybody trying to sneak in with Sousuke. But I like that. I like the idea that, and I think Sousuke kind of likes Mitsumi because she's not just googly-eyed over him all the time. She can be vulnerable, and because a lot of the girls that kind of interact with Sousuke are putting up that, when you have a crush on somebody, you put up a wall, and you don't want to show your flaws. You don't want to show the bad side of yourself. You're just like, oh no, I'm perfect. I'm perfect for you. And here's all these things about me that are great for you. And how are you? You put up this barrier. And I think what Sousuke instantly gets attracted to Mitsumi by is that she doesn't have that. She's quite oblivious to the fact that he likes her so much. And she has shown him already her flaws, her vulnerability. And I think he latches onto that because he's like, oh, you're real. You're genuine. You're not putting up a front. He's putting up a front. And so he's like, I can appreciate Mitsumi because she's not trying to be fake around me. She's being her authentic self. At least that's what I get out of their relationship so far. And I really like it. And then, of course, I'm like, girl. And Mitsumi's like, he's a really great guy. Okay, so his birthday's October 9th. So he's an effing Libra. He's an effing Libra. Oh my God, that's hilarious. My dad is a Libra and my mom is a Pisces. So my parents have the exact relationship of Sousuke and Mitsumi, which is really funny. And surprisingly, their personalities are exactly the same. Oh my God. Yeah. My dad is so really laid back, but he has this kind of guard around him. And my mom is just like type A, like shark attack, let's get this done kind of personality. So that's hilarious to me. Oh my God. Funny as hell. Yep. She's like, his given name. His self-portrait is a cloud. His self-portrait is just him as a cloud, which is really funny. He's just kind of floating on by. He doesn't really have any ambition. He's just floating in the sky. Okay, do they give us his blood type? Okay, it says, what does she say here? She instantly breaks down his name. She's like, Satoi. Satoi is quick on the uptake, smart decision maker. It's written with Satoi, the kanji for clever. And what does it also say there? It doesn't give his blood type, does it? How dare. Interesting. And then Sato. And that's when she realized, she's like, oh my God, he has the exact same characters as my dog. Sadanosuke. Oh my God. She's like, oh shit. She's like, he's like the family dog. He even looks like him. Hilarious, right? But again, I like that Mitsumi is not instantly crushing on him. She's just like breaking down his name and wanting to get to know him more, which I think that's the difference between just having a crush on someone and developing a lasting relationship. Like, she genuinely wants to get to know him, to know who he is, and she doesn't just view him as a handsome guy, which a lot of these girls are viewing him as. She sees him as kind of beyond that, which is really nice. And then he's just staring back at her, and she's like, what a coincidence. And he's just like, hi. And she's like, meanwhile, she's comparing him to her dog, and he doesn't even realize that. Oh my God. So, and he's just like, I don't know why she's staring at me. Now, Igashira, let's talk about Igashira. I don't think Igashira is a bad person. I know that a lot of people probably don't like her after this episode. I was pretty upset with her. I was like, girl, why? That's some petty bullshit. But I don't think Igashira is necessarily a mean or bad person, but she very much let her crush on Sousuke make her put Mitsumi down. And that's something that's very unattractive. And Sousuke calling her out on it, being like, you need to quit being petty like that, is like, oh, like he instantly just shut her down and was like, no, this isn't gonna happen. And I was like, oh, he very much like quickly shut her down. Like he noticed, I'm sure, but because he puts up that veneer, you won't know that he noticed until he brings it up. He's like, you need to kind of loosen up and quit being so uptight. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like, ugh. And then he goes and finds Mitsumi, which is the nail in the coffin, right? because I'm sure she sees him as she sees Mitsumi as having a crush on Sousuke, and she tries to like dampen it because yeah, as soon as Mitsumi agrees to be the class girl, all the guys are like, oh, Sousuke, you could be the class of the head boy of the class, right? The boys are all encouraging him to go after Mitsumi, whether they've said it or not. I think they're all like, come on, you and Mitsumi, huh? Like, be class boy. And if they're not encouraging him to go after Mitsumi, which maybe they're not, they at least want Sousuke to be ambitious and be class boy, because I'm like, come on, you could be head guy in the class, it's cool. And he's like, well, I'll do it if Mitsumi's doing it because we can do all that. It's great. The one girl with the bun on her head, she looks like, I'm just imagining this being a free crossover, but there's a girl in Free Iwatobi Swim Club that's best friends with Go. I said Izasumi in the reaction, but it's Go. She's best friends with Go, but she has the bun on her head. She looks exactly like her. They could be doppelgangers, right? And he's like, let's do this. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, well, we should write this on the board, right? Like him getting close to her and like leaning in and being like, shouldn't we do this on the board? Should we? And she's like, oh, I'll do it. Like she's just oblivious to all of his advances. And all the girls are like, hello. They're like, hang on. There's no way, right? And then seeing them together, it's like, are those two hitting it off? They very much are. It's just, yeah. They're like, is Shima-kun a natural player or is it all calculated? Right? And she's like, maybe I should dig into this. So again, I think that, is he a player or is it calculated? So I think there is a part of it where she wanted to find out, like, is he just a flirt or is he genuinely interested in Mitsumi? Again, maybe she was trying to help Mitsumi out. I'm going to try to give her the benefit of the doubt in terms of that. And then she took it too far. Maybe, again, first impressions don't necessarily add up, right? I mean, Higashira is kind of, she seems a bit cold, but maybe once Mitsumi gets to know her better, she'll be better, right? So yeah, they're talking about like which clubs and things to do, like which clubs to join, which things to do. And they talk about going to karaoke, and Mitsumi's like, well, I've never been to karaoke, which, yeah, there's no karaoke around this area where I'm at either. It's very rural. And so, of course, the one blonde guy's like, oh, karaoke with you ladies? Yes, I love him. He's amazing. Him with the tambourine, that was so cute. I like him a lot. And then we have Sousuke, the dark-haired boy with the weird side part that is clearly on the basketball club because he has the basketball he's carrying around everywhere. I wonder how Sousuke knows him, because he seems like he's really close with Sousuke. They've shared phone numbers, they talk to each other. So he clearly is probably the connection to Sousuke going to the Tokyo school. We don't know for sure yet, but I'm just guessing. But yeah, and of course he agrees to go, Sousuke does, because he's like, and then she says, you could come too, Sousuke. Iwakura is going to be there. And he's like, oh really? Well then I guess I'll go then. And he kind of blushes. It's like, she used that as bait to get him to go. And then she tried pushing Mitsumi away. And I was like, was she trying to push Mitsumi away to protect her? Or was she pushing Mitsumi away to get closer to him? And it kind of seems like both. It's like she's trying to have her cake and eat it too. Being like, oh, Mitsumi, I'll investigate him and see if he's okay. Or if he's just being a player. But then she tries to get in on that. And it's like, and he kind of sees right through it, right? That's kind of the thing. He sees right through it. He's like, yeah, I'll go then. And Mitsumi's like, oh, cool. And she's like, because I think she is a little bit jealous that Sousuke kind of immediately seems into Mitsumi. And of course the blonde's like, are all of you coming? The blonde boy with the tambourine has the hots for the blonde girl who is Mirashuge, who is gorgeous. She is beautiful. And I was afraid going into this that she was going to be like a Regina George. No, Higashira is the Regina George. But I was afraid that she was going to be like the Regina George and was going to be the girl that, is Mitsumi's like, oh, because Mitsumi, she doesn't have like the big anime eyes and the big long lustrous hair. Mitsumi looks average. She looks like a normal girl. And Mirashuge, we'll get her name for sure here in a second. She looks like gorgeous, like model worthy. And I was afraid that they were going to the show was going to try to play up of Sousuke and the blonde kind of flirting or being a thing. He didn't even care about the blonde. Not even a thing. I honestly want to ship the redhead Higashira with the blonde. I want them to go from like enemies to lovers. I want those two girls to like be a thing. But the blonde boy like seems all about her. He seems like want to date her immediately, which we'll see what happens, right? She gives me a vibe she could be into the redhead. Yeah, Murashige Yuzuki. Her name is even beautiful. Like she has this ethereal sounding name and she's gorgeous. And then she's like, I didn't want to invite a beauty queen like her. Yeah. So Igashira is a bit jealous. She's the green-eyed monster. She's a bit jealous of Mitsumi and Sosuke's relationship. She's jealous of how pretty that Migashira is. She's just jealous. And that's like one of her character traits. And that's fine. I can be very jealous too. So I understand where Igashira is coming from, but her intentionally saying those things to Mitsumi to try and throw her off, that wasn't cool. That was not cool, right? And I love Mikashige, whatever her name is, the blonde beauty. She's really pretty. So then, yeah, Igashira, she's like, you shouldn't take everything that Shima-kun says at face value. And Mitsumi's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, how do I say it? She's like, when a guy's that hot, he's bound to have a lot of girls fall for him. So he just kind of acts nice around all of them, which is not true. He is nice to all the girls he's around, but he is much nicer and much more into Mitsumi, and it's obvious. And Igashira trying to throw Mitsumi off, it's like she's trying to say, oh, well, don't play into that. Don't yes and him. Just kind of ignore him because he's not really into you. He's just being nice. And I'm like, girl, that ain't none of your business. Also, if you look at the shorter blonde guy with the tambourine that's like getting all excited about karaoke, you can see that Sosuke's next to the friend with the brown hair. They're always next to each other, which is interesting. And she's like, he's nice to everyone as a rule, so don't read into it. And she says, I don't want to see you get hurt. But the blonde's over there looking like looking at Igashira like, bitch, are you for real? I like that the blonde kind of gets protective of Mitsumi as well. Mitsumi's got these golden retrievers all around her protecting her. I like that the blonde instantly is like, I don't want to see Mitsumi get beat up like this. That's not cool. I don't like that. I like that she goes, and I like that she is protective of Mitsumi and kind of like puts it in Igashira's face like this is not cool and tries to let Mitsumi know what's up. I like that because Mitsumi, I don't think there weren't any mean girls at her middle school, so she doesn't know what this kind of behavior is like, right? How's she supposed to know? And she's like, but I like Sosuke, so why should I ignore him, right? So we have the rates. They talk about them having karaoke for 2 hours, and she's reading the little plaque to see what it's like, and it says that like it's basically on weekdays, like what is it, 135 yen for 30 minutes, and then it's like for students and seniors. Interesting. Which is not very expensive for karaoke. That's not bad. That's like a couple dollars. That's okay. And then she's like, oh, is this your first time at karaoke? Here's the one thing, because Igashira kind of puts her down. She's like, oh, well, you've never been to karaoke before, so you don't realize that you don't pay till the very end. And I like that Sosuke, she gets kind of embarrassed, and she's like, oh, yeah, sorry. And Sosuke's like, well, at some karaoke places you do. Like, he instantly defends her. He's like, at some places you do, so don't feel bad. Like, he instantly tries to make her feel better. I think at that point, he figured out what Igashira was doing, and he just went along with it because he is a nice guy, but he saw right through what she was trying to do. And she's like, oh, Shima-kun's nice to everyone. The one guy with the bowl cut, the blonde with the bowl cut, he has a great voice. And I love Tambourine Guy. I love how serious he is. He's so into it. I love that. That's so good. Meanwhile, you can see Mira, whatever her name is, the blonde, she's just kind of stirring her drink like she's not really having a good time. I kind of like her character and how at first I thought she was going to be the diva of this, but no, Igashira is a diva. But I like the idea that she is just this kind of lone wolf, and she doesn't really, she's so pretty, but again, impressions versus what's under the surface. She seems like this pretty woman who could have anything, but she's really quiet and introverted and like a lone wolf. She doesn't really want to do this sort of thing, but she likes Mitsumi, and it's like, oh, I like that. I like, as soon as the blonde went out and cornered Mitsumi at the bathroom, I was like, oh no, I like your character a lot. You're really cool. And so then Mitsumi's like, I can't pick what song I want to choose. Nah. And she's like, oh, is that your dialect? And she's like, oh, I guess. And I like that. I like that the blonde boy's trying to like get the girl blonde's attention, and she's not even paying attention. So yeah, Mitsumi's like, oh, karaoke. She's like, what should I do? She's like, I should be super loud. And she's trying to make a good impression, which, girl, I'm not a singer either. So I would be in the same boat. And that's when Murashige, I need to get her name right, Murashige. She's so pretty. And she's like, doesn't this bother you? She's like, she's using you to get closer to Shima. And like, I like that Mura, I'm just going to call her Mura. Mura is like, she's like, don't you get it? She knows that he likes you. So she's being nice. She's getting close to you to get closer to him and using you. And she's like, that's not cool. Like, I'm glad she points it out because otherwise Mitsumi wouldn't know. She's like, you know, are you okay with that? She's like, she's mocking your dialect when it's easy to understand. She's like, you're fine. She's like, have you picked up on the fact that she's being mean for no reason? And Mitsumi's like, I didn't know. No. And she's like, well, let me know if you want to leave because I wouldn't mind bouncing either. I love that. I love that she's like, hey, if you want to go, it's fine. We can go. I don't even want to be here, but, you know, I'm being kind of protective of you. I'm like, ah. And Mitsumi's like, oh. And then when she goes back and looks, of course, Igashira is like just sitting there being like, oh my gosh, around him. Yeah. And of course, Sosuke's being nice and just kind of listening to her like, I'm glad that she answered the phone call from Fumi because for a second I thought she was going to ignore the phone call, but I love it. And Mitsumi's like, you know, you can't tell what people are thinking. So building relationships can be hard, which is so true. And then she's like, Fumi, like, how did we become friends? And she's like, well, I didn't like you at first. I thought you were scary and pushy, but then I got to know you and realized that you were a good person and that you were a friend. And we became best friends after that. Right. And I like that Fumi can instantly tell when something's wrong with what Mitsumi's saying. She instantly gets it. And she's like, come on. She's like, you know, you can tell me. I can tell when you're lying. And they have this heart to heart because, yeah, you know, sometimes when you first meet somebody, your first impression isn't good and you just have to get to know them. And I'm hoping with Igashira that Igashira's insecurity and her jealousy she comes out and tells Mitsumi about that and tells Mitsumi about having a crush on maybe Sosuke because it's obvious that she does. I hope she can talk it out with Mitsumi later on in the series and they kind of come to terms and they're able to become friends because I don't want Igashira to be excluded from the group because I don't think Igashira is inherently a bad person. I think her insecurities and her jealousy are just making her make really petty decisions. And Mura kind of calls her out on it and she's like, this is what you're doing and it's not cool. So yeah, I just like that conversation between Fumi and her. And then she goes back in. And the image of little baby Mitsumi was so cute. I like this one girl becomes friends with her, the one that asks about the accessories, right? And she goes in there. And so she sits next to the one girl and she's like, I wanted to ask about your accessory. And Mitsumi's like, it's a long story. And she's like, how am I supposed to tell? I've only known her for 2 days. She's like, how do I know what kind of person she is? But Mitsumi's like, stop overthinking it. I'm like, thank God. Like, the overthinking miscommunication trope is one of my least favorite in romances. And it happens all the time. Because, yeah, you have to build some kind of stakes to get them to make up and have a thing. I get that. But I'm glad that Mitsumi decides to stop overthinking Sosuke. Stop thinking he's doing whatever. Stop overthinking people. Just be yourself. Be nice. And they'll either be your friend or they won't. And that's really how it goes. And so then, okay, what do we have up there? She's like, yeah, overthinking this stuff is silly. So then we have the weekly karaoke rankings. I like that we have the points up there. Like Charlotte's at the top and Saloon and then Lemonade, Kato, Canada, A Kind Devil's Methodology. Like, what the fudge? Interesting. And then she stands up and she sings this little kid song. She sings this kid's song that's from their childhood and rules for group karaoke. Rule 1, choose fun songs that everyone knows, which is all a song that's from their childhood. And they're all like, oh, that's so cute. Like, we should sing nostalgic songs too. And they're like, don't be shout, sing it loud and proud. And I love that she has the courage not only to sing this song that's clearly like from their childhood and it's really cute, but I love that the group doesn't ridicule her. They think it's hilarious and they think it's like, oh, we should sing songs like that too. Like, that support and that kindness is so nice. I'm like, yes, please. I freaking love it. And then, yeah, they all like start singing. And then as they leave karaoke, they're like, all that singing made me hungry. And then that's when Mura asks for her line ID so that she can talk to her. I like, Mitsumi has the panda accessory, and it looks like it looks like a wolf, I think. A wolf or a bear, one of the two, which is super cute. And then she's like, I had fun today with you, Mitsumi. And she's like, I gotta go be somewhere. What is that on her bag? I want to see it up close a little bit better. Oh, it's like, it's a schnauzer. Oh, she has a schnauzer charm. That's what it is. Love that. Yes, Mura being a schnauzer. I like it. Yeah, Murashige. I like the one blonde boy. He clearly likes her and has a crush on her. I love it. And she's like, I'll try to understand them little by little since I don't know what they're thinking. Yeah, and that's all you can do. All you can do is just start to understand people little by little till you figure them out a little more. So then Sousuke is walking away, and Igashira tries to, like, you know, kind of be like, she tries to get some information. She's like, oh, do you like movies? Do you like watching them with your girlfriend? And, like, you know, kind of beating around the bush. And he's like, oh, no, it's not that. He's like, but maybe you should loosen up a little. That line where she's like, he's like, you'll have more fun that way. And she's like, oh, why would you say that? And then she just stops. That is like, that was a stone cold read of just stop following me. That is like the killing with kindness, him being like, you should loosen up a little and you'd have more fun if you would quit being a bitch. Like, that was like literally what he said to her, and then just smiled and walked away. And she's like, oh, like he just shut down that conversation instantly, like knew where she was going with it and was like, no, let's not. And then he goes and finds Mitsumi, which is a telltale sign that he's like, no, not into her at all, or that jazz. Instead, he like follows her. And he's like, well, we live in the same direction. Let's head home together. And she's like, wow, you do really resemble Sadanosuke. And she's like, Sato-chan. And that's when she accidentally calls him the dog's name. And he's like, why did you call me that? And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he's like, who are you mixing me up with? And she's like, my family's dog? And he just thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. He's like, your dog? And she's like, well, you've got the same color fur. And he's like, oh, you mean my hair? He's like, and then this move where he's like, oh, it is wavy and soft. You know, do you want to touch it? A guy does not just say, do you want to touch my hair, and bends down for you to do so if he doesn't have some sort of feeling there for you. I'm sorry. No, I was like, that is a flirty moment. And then she's just like, surprised he could walk next to her after that. I was like, oh my God, girl, go for it. But she's just so honest. She's so honest and genuine about it that he's like, ah! And he's like, oh, well, he's like, you just get all up in there. And she's like, uh-huh. And he's just like completely flushed. I'm like, oh, Mitsumi, you have no clue what you do to him. You have no idea. I freaking love it. Love it. And then they just walk back together. So yeah, and so then I like that the one girl, she instantly has like the accessory now, and she's been inspired by Mitsumi to like have the accessory, and is now, Mitsumi setting all kinds of trends. So then we have all of the posters for the clubs trying to get her, like the hiking club, calligraphy club, the cycling club, film studies club, table tennis club. I thought of Mob Psycho as soon as I saw the occult club. I was like, oh girl, join that. And then, which Mitsumi and Mob, they're peas in a pod. Let me tell you, peas in a pod. And then the ramen club, I would be in the ramen club. If they had a sushi or ramen club, sign me up. We're just going to eat ramen all day. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And she thinks that, you know, Mitsumi wonders, she's like, well, should I be part of these, like, the quiz club or the science club because they're kind of nerdy and I'm being ambitious and want to, like, be smart and in government? Should I be in these, like, smart clubs, technically? Should I be doing that because they'll help me get a leg up on my exams? I think maybe I should do that, but she's not sure because that's a hard decision. How do you pick which club to be in? And she's like, I keep getting invited to the brainy clubs. And then the one girl says she's going to be in the dance club. Kinomoto. Yeah, Kinomoto is her name. That she wants to be in dance. And then he calls her Mitsumi-chan when Sousuke enters the room. So yeah, they have nicknames. They have Sato, although she says either Sato-chan or she says Shima-kun. And he says Mitsumi-chan. I'm like, yes, giving each other nicknames. And of course, Igashira he's like, you can call me Sato-chan too. And she's like, oh, okay. She's like, I really don't want to call you that because it's my family's dog name. And then of course, Kinemoto's like, what is going on? Oh, hi, Igashira. And Igashira like is loathing because her advances have met a brick wall and are going nowhere, right? So then, yeah, they're talking about what clubs, and the one girl, I forget that in Japan, you don't have to join a club. You can just do cram school. You don't have to be a part of a club if you don't want to. Like, the one girl's like, yeah, I've got cram school. I'm not really going to be in a club. I don't have time for that. And then, yeah, it's like, can you juggle both being in a club and studying? So Igashira's joining the English Conversation Club to help with exams, and it would be useful. And Mitsumi's like, well, what do I do? She's like, I thought for a second when I saw the high heels and the Band-Aids, I thought it was now coming to like give Mitsumi something and come in. She's like, this is a prep school and I have a dream. Do I have time for... and she's like, I have these fantasies of being in the club, but should I just forego all that to cram? And I like that Mura's like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. And that's when we have the drama club president come in. They give me a Fruits Basket, Hattori vibe, I think. Not Hattori. Hattori's a different one, but the one in Fruits Basket that's the cow, that it has the black and white hair. Is it... Oh, God, I know it starts with an H, but I can't remember their name. But they give me that vibe at first, especially with the earrings and everything. And I was like, oh. And I didn't know for a second if this was, before we find out they were drama club president, I didn't know if this was Nao's boyfriend, who this was. I didn't know who this individual was, if they were even a student, because the roses were kind of covering up if they had a tie on and it was part of their uniform. Didn't notice at first, but they are the drama club president. And they have come to woo Mitsumi to joining their club, but they think that Mura is the one that's the club class rep for the girls because she's so pretty. And then I like when they see Mitsumi though. I like when they see Mitsumi, they aren't immediately detested. Instead, they see Mitsumi and they're like, oh, you're cultured, you're worldly. How cultured and worldly you are. Because they probably recognize her accent, right? It all makes sense. I couldn't spot you hidden away like that. One day you've become the puker, and the next day you're the secret boss, which is a perfect description for Mitsumi. She's either the puker or the secret boss. Like she wavers on a very large spectrum. And then he gives her the rose. I love it. I also love like again, we talk about representation in this, and what I love about it is that nobody at any point makes fun of the drama club president for wearing heels or for dressing as the female lead because there's not enough girls in the play. Nobody makes fun of them for that. Nobody like chides them for that. They're just like, no, that's just how it is. And normalize it, which is how it should be. And I appreciate that. And I like that they say it takes such a talent to make an impression on people. So of course you could be an actress. What do you say? Theater is... And that's when Sousuke's like, could you stop scaring our juniors? Sousuke was not protective of Mitsumi with any of the other clubs except the theater club. So I feel like, and Sousuke also came to watch the drama club performance, but then left. So there's definitely a tie there to Sousuke and theater and acting, and which makes sense because Sousuke has such a mask and a veneer over him that he puts up this wall that you're trying to figure him out. And it's like he's acting 24/7, which if it ties to his childhood and his past or his family, that opens up a whole host of things to think about. So, but I like that it's the theater club he gets a little bit more protective about Mitsumi over, right? And he's like, oh, did I scare you? Sorry, I got a little amped, right? And he's like, you should come see our performance today. And he gives them all the flyers. And then he looks at Sousuke and says, well, it looks like he belongs on stage. And he's like, do I know you from somewhere? And Sousuke kind of blinks. And you can tell that Sousuke is internally screaming. But then they're like, oh, no, I don't think you do. And they're like, oh, okay, well then, never mind. See y'all later. And that's that. And so then they have I like the little vase of the flowers on the teacher's desk. So yeah, the performance club, she goes into the gym, goes past the volleyball club and all that to go see the performance. And she's like, I need to pull myself together and figure out what I want to do. And then she watches the performance, and there's not very many first years that are there. They don't have enough parts for the female characters. So Kanechika has been running around in heels. So Kanechika is the president that is doing all of the roles. They look beautiful in the dress and the wig. They look gorgeous. And I don't know if that's going to be a statement about Kanechika, if that's part of their identity, or if they're just doing it because there aren't enough female leads. I don't know, but they do look beautiful with the dress and the wig, right? And then it says, you're the one, and then they perform like the little play there. And you can see Sousuke sitting behind Mitsumi watching, right? And then he gets up and goes, and she notices. So she has this monologue, Mitsumi does, where she talks about how she doesn't quite understand the play. She didn't quite get it. She's like, it was a conversational play involving 4 people, and it flew over her head. But she does say this. She goes, but I felt like the most exciting discoveries and achievements are usually a product of the kind of single-minded dedication that I saw on that stage. So there is this connection where Mitsumi's like, even though theater may not be for her, she can see that the same type of dedication and work and effort that goes into being an actor is that same type of dedication is what is applied by other clubs, like the people in the science club that are achievers, the people in athletic club that are achievers. It's that same type of hard work and dedication to make it as successful as it is, and it's across the board. And I like that, right? It means that every club involves that same dedication and level of effort to make it work. I like that. Yeah, I like that she says that, right? It's great. And then you see Kanechika throwing the roses over their shoulder. Mm-hmm. So then, yeah, they all take a bow. It's great. Mitsumi claps, and then Sousuke leaves and starts walking away. And you go, Sousuke from this point on does seem very sad. There is something there that is not being said. And Mitsumi has picked up on that. She's like, you're acting kind of weird today. And then he's like, oh yeah, I kind of just came to watch. And she's like, he's not as talkative as he usually is. So she's like, I'm having a hard time making up my mind on what to do. And then he says, I tell myself the things I'm undecided on were never that important anyway. Which on the one hand, he seems pretty decided on the fact that he likes Mitsumi, so that's good. But he's telling himself, if I don't have a strong opinion about it, then it's not worth worrying about. And she kind of connects that back to the first day they met and is like, oh, there's a lot of mystery with him I don't know yet. And she's like, there are only so many things, important things you can't compromise on. So there's clearly like some weight beneath those words. And Mitsumi's like, I don't understand what he's exactly talking about, but it's not just about drama club. He's talking about something else. She's like, he's always lighthearted and smiling and kind, but... And he's like, I have to go. Sorry, I have to go today. But sometimes he seems a little sad. And I like that she picks up on that because I think his friends, his close friends have picked up on that as well. But they know more of the story than she does. And so I feel like she's going to want to get to know him more to kind of understand what's going on. He's a total mystery. So yeah, so he's walking with his friends. And then that's when, again, Kanechika comes up with the Band-Aids on his heels and on his feet. And he's like, I remember you now. You're Kanade-kun, right? And Shima's like, are you confusing me with somebody else? And he's like, no, I'm talking about... So I'm guessing Kanade is maybe the character that he played in the show. And Sousuke's like, hey, you guys go on. I'm going to sit here and talk to this guy. And then he drags him into the corner in the shadows. And it's like, Sousuke can get real scary real quick. He's like, listen, I know I'm right. My father loved that TV show. Uh-huh. And he's like, he recorded all of it. I only watched it in middle school. And he's like, Kanematsu-senpai, wasn't it? And he's like, don't you understand? I don't want to talk about it. And just shuts him down with like that calm and cool expression. So... what it sounds like is that he was that he was, because he talks about it being in middle school, that he watched it in middle school and his dad loved that TV show. So I'm guessing that Sousuke was a child actor on a TV show that his dad watched when he was younger. And now Sousuke's gotten older and he doesn't want to keep being a child star. He's like, no, I want to be myself. I don't want to be what my parents maybe forced me to be in when I was a kid. I want to go off and do my own thing, but I don't know what that is. Ooh, okay. Whatever the case may be, he is like that way. He just shut him down. And Kanachika was like, he's like, it's amazing you call yourself a playwright when you can't even pick up on that. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. Did you not get the hint I was putting down subtly but surely? And Kanachika's like, and he's like, bye. And Kanachika's like, oh. Oh, well, about that. So yeah, the mystery deepens, right? So we come back to Mitsumi with this. I guess it's to like massage your face or something. That's what she's using it for. And she's like, I'm not joining any clubs. And I like that we see now putting the face mask on being like, oh, is that so? Really? But instead, I'm going to join student council, which makes much more sense, right? I can't imagine Mitsumi biding her time in all these other clubs when being in student council makes the most sense for her end goals, right? She's like, it'll help me get some valuable leadership experience. Yes. And it's like, the youth, high schoolers. Always with big starry-eyed dreams. I'm going to stay all this way all the way to retirement. Which is interesting. I'm curious what Now's dreams were and what they are now. That's interesting. I want to know what Now does as a job because they're always dressed really pretty. And they're dressed very professionally. Interesting. And I like Mitsumi's like, well, I'm always going to be this way and have my dreams. I love this episode so much. This was so good. I'm already in love with this series and I can't wait for more. So yeah, just, in any case, I am very curious to know your thoughts down below. Please, no spoilers, hints or clues. Do not tell me anything about Sousuke and what it is. I want to be surprised. I want to find out on my own, but I'm really enjoying this series so far and I hope you all are too. So in any case, I hope you all enjoy. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, but I'll be back next week with more of Skip and Loafer. Bye!